Hello. Hi. How's it going, guys and girls and friends beyond the binary, right? That's what Scoot says. The mic is on. Hey, y'all. It's time for the show. Can you hear me okay? Is everything all right? Wow. I'm a little bit, later than I usually like to go on because, hi, everybody. Hey, Sue John, Molly. It's not Michelle. It is, hang on, Quilting Politics. Sue. I'm pretty sure. Michelle's in the house. Oh, name change Michelle. Okay, that's great. That's easier to remember than the one that I've already forgotten what it used to be. Stephanie Cake's in the house. Hey, Brendan. Yeah, the mic's on. I mean, from the start. Molly Squared. It was so good to see you at the Bronte workshop, girl. How fun was that? That was pretty fun. I enjoyed it very much. We got Susan Michael in the house. We got the new Elizabeth. Forget the old Elizabeth. It's the new Elizabeth. The new Elizabeth. That's a lot. Well, your dad turned 90. That's pretty cool. And your oldest daughter had gallbladder surgery. How is she doing? Did she come through it okay? I don't imagine that's very fun. Whatever led to the surgery, right? And then, just recovering from surgery is the pits, Even if it goes well, it's like, Faith is here. Excellent. Dee Marie. Beautiful. I'm glad to see you. And I did read your email, by the way. Yeah. You're right. And it didn't come up because I didn't have enough time. But anyway, we'll talk. And let's see. Faith. Brendan's here. Excellent. Brendan's here with a very interesting question. Is anyone submitting a quilt to the MQG Phoenix show, QuiltCon? I'd like to know. I'd like to hit myself in the tooth. Let's see. Marianne, honey, I got some crisps. I've had a day. Let me just say, I've been on Zoom calls since 1 p.m. and it's 5, I got off my last one at 4:30. And it takes some effort to get everything ready for y'all. And, I've got a great quilt in the background for you today. You probably noticed. But, I'd like to have, I'm feeling like the flow of the show. And, hey, all right. First time chat, Crosley at home. Crosley, welcome to the show. I get a little note. I don't know if everyone else can see it, but it says first time chat from viewer. I'm so glad you came to the show. We enjoyed Bronte as well. I hope you enjoy this show. It's fun. It's like, how I like geeked out about quilts and got all like in my feelings about it and was like, that's what this is all the time. Only it's well, like I was saying, it's like I kind of have this flow now where the stuff I see through the week, and I saw a lot of really interesting stuff this week while I was researching for something else. And so I sort of bring some things to the table. I'll tell you more about that in just one second. I want to welcome Mark and Brendan. Okay, yeah. Hey, Quiltish. It's a great name. Okay, so we always have to explain and welcome. Hey, Kirsten. I don't know if I said welcome to you yet. When we have a new person or new people, there may be more than just one new person here tonight. And by the way, if you don't say hi in the chat, that's totally okay. And I can't see like who's in here. I can see sort of like, general numbers of people, from like minute to minute. I try not to look because it's not about the numbers. But if you want to lurk and just hang out, like that's great. You don't have to say anything, but it's great when you say hello. So yeah, so if you were at the Bronte workshop this past weekend, but even if you weren't, I gave a lecture, right, to this audience, and it was obviously rehearsed. It was very, I worked on my slides for a long time. There's lots of research that went into it that no one, saw. You saw the results of my research, right, this lecture. And what I really love about lecturing is that I get to share this cool stuff that I learned with people. Because if I learn cool stuff about quilts, it just stays with me unless it goes into a lecture or I'm talking to someone who also loves quilts and it's like, oh, I learned this thing, or like, oh, you have to see this quilt, whatever. So all my lecture, research, it used to end with me. And I would have only, at QuiltCon, for example, 50 minutes to give you like as much information as I could about this certain topic in the time that I had. And for the Bronte workshop, we wanted to keep my lecture at about 30 minutes, right? Because doing a history lecture with a quilt workshop, it's newish. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, what a crazy idea. I mean, it makes sense. But as far as I know, those workshops haven't really existed, or they certainly haven't existed in a while, not ones that I know of. So adding that in, but I didn't want to give an hour lecture. I mean, people wanted to sew, so about 30 minutes. So I had even less time than I, would want. I mean, it was perfect. I'm not saying that there was anything wrong with it, but I only get this short amount of time to share with people the cool stuff that I find. Tonight, you will see just exactly what I'm talking about, because I have really cool stuff to show you. That if I didn't show it to you live like this, I don't know where all that cool stuff would go. This cool stuff in my files, it's all quilt related, of course, the cool stuff in my files, the cool stuff in my brain. I have images and I have text and I have stories, and it's just, there's so much material out there about quilts. And I didn't know when I started making quilts about 12 years ago that I would care so much. But it was when I realized how much quilts are actually in culture, right? How much quilts the presence that quilts have in history and in culture, economically, women's history, world history. If quilts were just pretty blankets, I wouldn't be here. I mean, they'd be great. They'd be really great, pretty blankets. And, and they're really fun to make. But quilts are so much more than that. They show up in music. They show up in history, obviously. They show up in fashion. There's scholarship about quilts. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you can get a degree in quilt history at the International Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, there's a lot here. And I'm a very curious, interested person. And so there's so much behind a quilt that it's going to keep me happy for a really long time, because as I research quilts, I research the whole wide world. And so with Twitch, with this live streaming platform, I did that last time I hit the lamp. With this live streaming platform, I can share my screen with you and I can take you through what I'm looking at and we can talk about it. Hey, Little Bird Stitch. Hey, Holmes. What's up, Holmes? We can talk about it. You can talk to me about it. And I can hang out with you, And so if you like my lecture, if you like, I don't know, geeking out about quilts, like being a nerd, about quilts, then you're in the right place. And there's somebody in the chat named Mark who came up with this wonderful term for what this is. And he called it a video magazine. And it's kind of what it is. Or a visual radio show. Oh, visual podcast? Damn it, I need to write down. Padman came up with that one, and I don't know why. I just get them sort of mixed up in my head. But there's nothing else really like this, because you can listen to a podcast about quilts, and those are great. But you can't see anything with a podcast. So my hope for this show is to give you something to listen to while you're working on your projects, to give you something while you're cleaning the house, or, if there was a show like this that I wasn't making, I would definitely want to turn it on while I was doing things, certainly while I was making a quilt. So we watch videos, we look at pictures, you'll see. So the last thing to say about it is that I told you I gather things throughout the week, that I find on my journey, my quilt research journey for various projects I'm doing. And I've done this for a long time, and I'll save like links to cool things. I'll save pictures. for a long time, it's just been like, I'll look at that later. Like, oh, that's amazing, but I have to work on this because I have a deadline. So I'll come back to that amazing thing, that quilt from the 1960s. Oh my, I want to know more about that quilt from the 1960s, but I don't have time to look right now. So I'll get back to it. Does anybody ever really get back to the thing that they wanted to look at? You know, this note started getting longer and longer in my computer, right? This note of things to go back to. So now I get to do it with you. And what it means is that this is an exploration. I've got some things here tonight to show you. I'm not lecturing with you. I'm learning with you because I'm pulling things from that note, that long note document, and saying, cool, let's look at the woman who made the quilt behind me. I don't know anything about her, but I found her quilts and So let me go to the second screen. Oh, and by the way, okay, I have to tell you this. I feel like, hey, M. Hicks, I'm so glad you're here. So I have to say something. And to my original people, I don't know if Carol Hempel's in the chat, one of the OG, but you know who you are. Come on. I have to tell you something, and I don't. You just can't take it wrong. I don't think Quilt Church, I don't think it can be called Quilt Church. We can informally call it Quilt Church, okay? It's brilliant and hilarious. Like, it's great. It was so great. I was like, okay, great, it's Quilt Church. But as I've been sort of saying it and thinking about it, there was something that bothered me about it. I mean, not like, please don't let me get some fuzz in my eye right now. Okay. I just found that I was like it caught me up sometimes when I was like, Quilt Church. Like I said, it's sweet and clever and all those things, right? But there's something about the worship part of it that it's like the Princess and the Pea, you know? Like there's just this little thing that makes me think, yeah, I know, right? Yes. So Dee Marie says, oh, you have many things. Oh, okay. Yeah. And Carol says she has a list of things to Google in your phone. Yeah. You feel me. So there's been so many, there's been times when I was thinking about Quilt Church and I just, anyway. So I don't know what it's going to be. And I would love more suggestions, like 1,000%, like keep them coming would be great. But there's something about being worshipful toward anything that makes me go ultimately. So that's all. And it can still be Quilt Church, but I think officially it's going to be something. And look, and we're getting like better each time because initially it was called Quilts and Crisps or Quilts and Chips. That was my brilliant idea. Like early in the thing, it was Quilts and Chips. Like, come on. So we're on our way. So yeah, we'll come up with something because you got to be able to proclaim it, shout it from the rafters, and feel really good about that. Quilt Jam, oh, Crosley, hi. Oh wait, no, I said hi to you. You were up in the chat, I think. But if not, hello. So think about it. Let it marinate, ruminate on this. So okay, so now, okay, Civvy Mac, hi Civvy Mac. Now I'm going to do this thing that I do where I go to, I get small. Ugh, help, I'm small. I've missed you all. Like I missed Sunday when we just sew together 4 p.m. Central. No, 10 a.m. Central. We sew together. I'll talk more about the schedule later. Let's dig in. What are you looking at? Stitchin' and Twitchin', I think, is taken. I know, Stitchin' and Twitchin' is amazing, but I think Quiltoni, who's this really lovely quilter who's on Twitch, who was definitely here before me, she sews and makes quilts on Twitch, and I think she does Stitchin' and Twitchin', and I don't want no trouble. Okay, and I do have crisps. I'm very hungry. All right. So, Quilt Nerdery. Yeah, okay. I'm going to review the chat after we're done. Okay, so what do I have here? Every show starts with a quilt. Let me take a look. And I tell you what I know about it. So this quilt was made, I mean, first impressions, what do you think? It's pretty great, right? I like Quilt Jam. Yeah, I like Quilt Jam. Yeah, Padma, I'm with you. Maybe that's part of it, right? Yeah, great colors, Holmes. Great colors. M. Hicks has a question for the group. Okay. Great colors, and, you know, this picture is pretty good resolution-wise. I have to confess that it is sideways right now. So I'm going to open a picture of it that is, you know, where it is oriented. Orientated? Is orientated a word? I don't think so. I'm going to open a picture of it that is, that has it the way it ought to be, because the artist would want that. But for the screen, it was good to have it like that. So here we go. Yep. So I found this quilt because earlier in the week, well, it's Tuesday, so yesterday, I was Quilt Academy. Quilt Academy. Now that's really good. It's really good. Okay. So I was looking for, you know, I'm doing that lecture at QuiltCon. Quilt Academy is great. Doing a lecture at QuiltCon about quilts and fine art, you know, quilts that appear in fine art galleries, not just quilts that, like actual quilts that are hung on the walls, like G's Bend or whatnot, but where quilts appear in the art, like Sanford Biggers, you know, these different people who use quilts in art. Robert Rauschenberg used a quilt in a painting in the 1960s. And so I'm doing a lecture on that because it's really interesting. And I want to pose to you the question, you know, rhetorical question, and maybe we get into it tonight. I don't know. We'll see where this takes us. But like, why is like a shredded quilt, like, tacked to a canvas, even when the person is really talented, you know, like a quilt on its own just can't go into most museums, but these other pieces that use quilts can. And actually a better example is I have found a lot of paintings. Now, we looked at a painting last week that was unbelievable. No, none of us would say, oh, that's not so great. You know, why should that get into a museum and not this particular quilt? I think we all were fully impressed by the work that we saw. Stephen Lorber and Nancy Hagen. Yeah, that was amazing. And so I've found a lot of paintings by like abstract artists, minor one people. I mean, I don't know many abstract artists, you know, contemporary today, but like, you know, selling their stuff on Artsy and that are doing paintings that are like grids, basically. And they call it quilt. There's a lot of paintings out there that are sort of like checkerboard kind of things, and they call it quilt number 2 or something. And these paintings are like $3,000, $5,000. And I know some quilts, you know, are marketed, you know, and can claim that price, you know, certain quilts. But it's just weird. It's like, well, that painting sucks. Sorry. It's just not, there's not a lot going on there. I'm sorry. You know, symbolically or whatever, the only symbolism, the only sort of depth this painting would have is that he or she called it quilt. But, you know, the actual thing, a quilt can very rarely sell for over like $300. So anyway, so I'm thinking about it. So one of the things, hey, so Kate, yay, and Myra, yes, quilt school, yeah. Hey, Rhonda Canoodle, I love you people. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm just thinking about this. So I'm thinking about art and quilts, and so I Googled quilt sculpture yesterday, because I haven't ever searched that quilt sculpture. And interesting what I found. And I found this person that we are going to talk about. And I have not read her biography, but I printed it out. I am and forever will be a paper girl. I just have to... I've got two screens going. I am going to read something off my monitor later that I couldn't print out. But yeah, I want to read off of paper whenever possible. Hey, Crosley. Yeah, I mean, it's... The women's work, domestic, decorative art thing is 1,000% a part of this, without question. Okay, so this quilt, so I searched quilt sculpture, okay? And I am going to open up a folder of work by Elizabeth Gurrier, Gurrier. I had never heard of her. I am fascinated by her. Hey, Michelle. Oh, wait, you're Michelle. Okay, I know that. I never heard of this person. The work that I found by her is very interesting. And I'm going to show it to you now. So let me get out of this this particular little guy here, and I'll pull this down into this. That's a great background. If I do say so myself, I picked a good picture. I mean, but I'm very impressed by this quilt, and there are a couple others here. So I found her sculpture, and quilted sculpture. This is who turned up. I think maybe first. I don't know. It might have been a deep cut, but here we go. Don't read ahead. Hide sidebar, view full screen. Yes. Okay. No. That's the preview. Oh, yes. Oh, it's a preview. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this is one of the pieces that I found that Elizabeth Gurrier made. And she's made these pieces largely in the 1970s. Let me get the chat so I don't miss anything here. You did? Padma fell asleep thinking of quilt sculpture. Really? We're living in a simulation. You know that, right? We'll talk about it later. Okay. So this is the bio. I have like 6 pictures of her work. Okay, so I'll go through these pictures as I read her bio. And her bio, it was very hard to find anything about her except for what I found on the Art of the Quilt website. The Art of the Quilt website is run by, or is hosted by, a man named Robert Shaw, who was the curator at the Shelburne Museum in Vermont. Very famous. We'll like go to the Shelburne one day soon. It's amazing what they have there. And he's a dealer. I mean, he's like an art dealer basically, or he was for a long time, and he would sell certain quilters, very prominent, quilters' work. So Elizabeth Gurrier is somebody that he represents or has represented. So I pulled this bio off his website. Hang on. It's been muggy today. All right. I haven't read it yet. Let's read it together. Yeah, okay. So first, let's answer a question. So, yeah. Hey, Caroline. Hi, Caroline. So, Holmes says it gives you Jim Henson vibes. Yeah. I couldn't put my finger on it. Exactly. Jim Henson vibes for some reason. The faces remind me of the Fraggle Rock people. Those like lips, yes. The piece is amazing, says Sue John. I'm sorry, will you say her name again? Of course, it's Elizabeth. I'll type it. Elizabeth Gurrier. And Marianne is asking, is the sculpture marble or trapunto? It is fabric. It is fabric. And look how it's 3-dimensional. I mean, these fingers are really coming off of the piece, right? You'll see more. Okay. So here's a quilt. Okay. So there's 3 quilts, And then the other ones are these sculptures. Okay, Elizabeth Betty Gurrier was a pioneering textile artist who is best known for her whimsical, intricately stitched whitework quilts and soft sculptures. She participated in many of the seminal exhibitions of non-traditional quilts in the 1970s, bam, where her sculptural whitework and complex machine quilting astonished viewers and fellow artists alike. Her work has been exhibited internationally at museums and galleries and is included in the collections of the Renwick Gallery. See, I haven't read this. I'm with you, because that's amazing. In the collections of the Renwick Gallery of the American Museum of Art, the Smithsonian. It's fabulous. Nancy Crow did an amazing exhibit there a few years ago. It was a big deal. And she's also, Elizabeth Gurrier, been featured or has had exhibitions at the North Carolina Museum of Art and the International Quilt Study Center and Museum. I didn't search for her in the Quilt Museum search box, so we're going to. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. We're doing that after this. Gurrier received, and we might come back to this quilt, but I want to give you some more of this sculpture, okay? And I'll zoom in. Gurrier received a BA in art history at Wilson College in Chambersburg. Art history, interesting. In Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, after which she spent 2 years in the New York City business world, taking evening courses in copper enameling, ceramics, and silk screening. Interesting. After marrying Bob Gurrier, her husband of 56 years, they moved to West Hartford, Connecticut, and raised 3 children. She also did graduate work in education at St. Joseph's College in West Hartford, continued courses in design, figure study, and sculpture at the University of Hartford, and exhibited sculpture in juried shows and galleries in Connecticut. Okay, so I know, Viv. I mean, look, we looked at Boutique, right? We looked at Trapunto a few weeks ago. And so it's like that, but then there's this other element. I mean, obviously, it goes beyond Trapunto to sculpture, right? That's how I found her. I Googled quilt sculpture. Like, what am I going to get if I Google quilt sculpture? I mean, this definitely counts. And I kind of feel like I want to show you the next piece. I want us to look at this and I want to examine. But I need to show you. Hang on. Here. We're going here. Okay. I had to go here. I had to jump. And we can go back to looking at that one piece. And I thought I had written down titles for these works, but I don't know that I did because they would probably be here. So I apologize. I don't know. But if you start Googling Elizabeth Gurrier, you can find the names. But this is like the 70s, right? She's doing her work like in the 70s and 80s, I believe. Before moving to New Hampshire, however, a stitchery seminar sent her in a new direction. So she was there. Okay. A stitchery seminar sent her in a new direction. And she ultimately abandoned her career as a sculptor in favor of creating soft sculpture figures, wall hangings, and quilts. After several years of working with colored fabrics, she began imposing a new discipline, that of designing with strictly off-white fabrics, primarily unbleached muslin. Only the softest and most... Yeah, it's such a Muppet. I'm with you. Very Jim Henson, right? Only the softest and most subtle touches of color were introduced into her stitchery. Along with quilting, trapunto, and stuffing. The intention... Okay, trapunto. Yeah. Whoever said trapunto. Totally. Yeah, I know the fingers. Look at this one. Are you kidding me? I mean, look at that. That's crazy. I mean, whoa, right? Okay. She used both hand and machine stitchery. along with, quilting, trapunto, and stuffing, right? The intention was to create light and shade as a hard sculptor would do. So hard is in scare quotes. The intention was to create light and shade as a hard sculptor would do. Without the emotional impact of color, the essence of the design became the interplay between texture and form. Quote, without color, let me just give you some zooms here. Wow, that's so 70s. Look at this motif down here. It's like pretty 70s, right? Just that motif. Quote, without color and the emotional response color brings, the design itself must do the communicating, Gurrier explained. She usually machine stitched and quilted her work, whether a wall hanging, bed covering, soft sculpture figure, or handbag. But the comical faces, a common element in her creations, were always hand-stitched without a pattern. Okay, let's go in here. Look at this guy. Hello. I mean, they're so, like, religious iconography, right? Yeah, the quilting lines look carved. They do. They do, little bird. It's crazy. Marianne, I know that link you put up, the Tristan quilt. Yeah, we're going to look at the Tristan quilt. You see, if you're new here, you might be like, you just said you'd look at 5 different things. And I did, and we're going to. And they're not on my list. This is what we do. Because that's how you learn stuff. You just, like, explore, right? I didn't think about the Tristan quilt. I mean, one of the earliest quilts that we have in anywhere, maybe the first, well, there's like an quilt, Marianne, that's like somewhere in the Lakes District or something like that, but Levens Hall. But the Tristan quilt is a quilt at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and it's perfect. It's perfect. Marianne, you're very smart, and you will all see why she brought that up in just a second. That's where we'll go next. Okay. Michael James, who featured examples of Gurrier's white work in his books, The Quilt Maker's Handbook and The Second Quilt Maker's Handbook. What else do I have for you here? Okay. Oh, sorry. So we did that. Okay, now we're gonna... This one. Okay, now we're gonna look at these quilts, okay? Michael James described it as pushing stuffed work to its limit as soft sculpture. And he added, quote, historically, rich detail and exquisite workmanship were hallmarks of the all-white quilt. Elizabeth Gurrier carries on this tradition in her innovative pieces. Yeah, rich detail. Sorry, I had to take the quilt away because he's talking about this. So, yeah, rich detail and exquisite workmanship was a hallmark of the all-white quilt. We saw that, a couple weeks ago with the boutique, right? And we were all like, ugh. And she's doing that, right? But she's applying it in this different way. And then there's this sense of whimsy. And, like, boutique is a lot of things. Or trapunto. Yeah, trapunto, boutique is a lot of things. But funny or, like, kind of whimsical or... curious, it is not. But in her hands it is. And I mean, obviously the workmanship is amazing. I mean, really amazing. Okay, last paragraph I have for you. In the late 1980s... Oh, snap! Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? I didn't... Here we go. I'm gonna go to this one. We haven't seen this one yet. But I want to look at the other two now that I saw this. Okay. In the late 1980s, Gurrier moved in still another new direction, designing one-of-a-kind hand-painted quilts. Hand-painted, I guess. Interesting. Didn't know that. Like her white work, these were made of whole cloth muslin, which she painted, for real, are you serious, with textile pigments. Oh my God, adding hand and machine quilting, and often embroidery and stuffed work as well. While her painted work is far less well known than her white work, It is equally inventive and remarkable. Yeah. As are the many soft sculpture figures, pillows, boxes, handbags, and other forms she made during her long artistic career. They're painted, people. Yeah. That's painted. It's not, it's quilted, right? So, but which one did I open with? I opened with this one. So that's painted. Wow. Wow. That's really cool. Yes, it does. Wow. Oh my God. Got chips flying out. Okay. I mean, crisps. I know. What wasn't she good at? Yes. You know what, Stephanie? You said it. I couldn't come up with that word. Tombstone. Of course, those angels look like tombstones, of course. Thank you. So this is painted. I mean, I don't know. Like, I just didn't even know how to... I mean, it did look different from other quilts, obviously, but, like, that makes sense. Because, like, how do you... I mean, but, you know, I don't know. People who go to Paducah, right? The best in shows at Paducah, they're so intricate and ornate, a lot of these quilts. And so, I don't know. Quilters can do lots of amazing things. So I just thought it was fabric. But it's painted fabric. So let's look at this one. Oh, I love this. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so that is your opener, Elizabeth Gurrier. So what I want to do, as promised, sorry, don't you tell me that you did that thing. I don't like it when you do that thing. It does this thing. No, yes, no. I figured that out last week. I don't like that. It's really screwed me up. Okay. I'm going to go down here to Google Chrome, and I am going to go and I'm going to search the International Quilt Museum website for Elizabeth Gurrier because I didn't look for her here. Gurrier. Displaying 1 of 1. Oh, man. Fragments. Not available. Well, I'm not done yet. Fragments. Sculpture. Perhaps there will be another image of it somewhere. Oh, how about that? Yeah, okay. Oh, wow, y'all. Okay. I found more. I found her. I actually saw that picture earlier. So there's just, yeah, there's more. There's more. Wow. Oh, yeah, okay, he's got some more. Okay, look at that. So is that... Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm going to put this Google search in the chat. I mean, I threw some things together pretty fast. Okay, Caroline, you asked a question. Do you stream on Thursday again or the weekend? Yeah. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central, 5 p.m. for me here in London. And Saturdays at, 10 p.m. for me. Since you're in Germany, like, we can talk like our time zone. So 10 p.m. in London. Oh, yeah. Like clockwork. The only... What we didn't sew together on Sunday, but this Sunday we're sewing at 4 p.m. London time on Sunday. I'm just going to turn the camera on and sew. We've done it before. The only reason we didn't do it this past week was because of the Bronte workshop. Okay, that's the link for that Google search. Oh, Andrea. I owe Andrea something. Thank you for reminding me. Tell her I said hi, and I'm in the doghouse, but I'll get her that thing, okay? Now, Little Bird Stitch, you have a very good... Okay, bye, Stephanie. Oh, I don't know if I got to say bye before you had to leave, but you are welcome. Little Bird Stitch, several things here. Art Nouveau, yes. The William Morris, 1000%. Totally a great reference there. Yes, it's almost 3D. And yeah, okay, and Padma says, this one's also painted. So we're talking about the quilts that that I put up on the screen. We're talking about these, right? Textile art versus quilts. We're not discussing that exactly, but that's an interesting thought. Like, well, yeah, is it an art quilt? Or is it a sculpture? It's a good question, actually, or a good thing to think about. So, and then Little Bird says, painting the fabric would make it more accepted in the art world. Probably, Okay. Quilt brainery. That's good. So it's all very interesting. Okay, see you on Thursday, Caroline. Auf Wiedersehen. Yeah, very interesting. Edward Gorey. Hey, Crosley. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, it would be great if you did. It helps support what I do here, and you don't have to watch ads that Twitch sometimes plays. That's great. Later, you can subscribe, with more, stuff that I can offer you to subscribe. But for now, it's easy. $4.99, and no ads, and you make me smile. But this is interesting. That's ArtNet. Okay. We have I have so much more for you tonight, but we have to look at the Tristan quilt, okay? Because it's totally relevant. Tristan quilt. And truly, like, if you are a person who the quilt nerds out there, like, if you're a person who knows a lot about quilts, like, the Tristan quilt is going to be in your like vocabulary, like in your library of quilt knowledge. Like, the Tristan quilt needs to be there. Okay. Hey, Brendan. Okay, we'll see you on the replay. Excellent. It's interesting. It's interesting. The replays of these videos, and I finally got Twitch fixed the thing so I can upload to YouTube again, and I upload all the episodes to YouTube. But the replays of the show, y'all, I mean, like 340, 200 and something. I mean, it's interesting that there's a lot of replays on it. And if you look at other Twitch channels, the replay is not a thing that really happens. I mean, people are playing video games, and so, how much do you want to replay the video game? I don't know how replays work, or they call them VODs, videos on demand. I don't know how gamers, treat VODs. If they care about them, they must care about them, or it wouldn't be a feature of Twitch, right? But I've dipped into a couple other, like, sewing channels and a couple other, like, crafty channels. The replays are not that. I mean, sometimes they'll have like 50 replays. Every once in a while, you'll see a channel that has a lot more replays. But I mean, I'm being sincere here. I can't quite figure it out, because, and the YouTube, views are fine too. I mean, they're there. People are watching this show, but they're not watching it live. And so I know it's at kind of a strange time for the States. It's just, it's hard being here and finding, like, the time. Ideally, I'd probably go at like 8 p.m. or something, but it's literally 3 a.m. for me. If it's 8 a.m. in the States, I just, I can't do it. I can't do that. So it's kind of a weird time, but Saturday at 10, it happens with Saturday night too, or the Saturday stream. There's just a lot of replays. Yeah, on replay, the YouTube, it's true. On replay, I get to go down my own quilted rabbit hole. Yeah, it's fun, but time consuming. It's true. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, Holmes. You rewatch because you learn things, and you can't often listen live. And that's true. I watch live streams on YouTube that happen, and I couldn't be there. I mean, there's a million reasons why people don't see the live. They have to work, they're asleep, their internet goes out. Like, there's 1,000 reasons, but it's just interesting. It's encouraging. It's very cool to see that people are watching them back, you know? So anyway, but I was wondering, like, I hope they come to the live show too someday. All right. So this is the Tristan quilt. What I will do is this. Actually, let me see if I can get a really nice high-res photo to put up on the screen, because there's a lot going on here. Do we have the full thing? There's a reproduction. Hang on, just bear with me here. Well, there's the V&A. I mean, that's, well, Wikipedia, good old Wikipedia. Wiki Commons might actually, hang on. Everybody just watch out here, okay. Okay, yep. Well, that's really bad. Just hang on. I want to make it worth your while. Let me just see if we've got the full thing. Well, that's an important picture because that's the thing hanging at the V&A. So let me grab that. And let me grab, how big is this one? And this one. Okay, hang on. Well, that's a pretty good one. It's not amazing high res, but it's pretty good. Okay, we're going to do this. And we're going to go like this. You all are so patient with me as I scoot things around. Okay, full screen. Excellent. That's the Tristan quilt. Well, it's a section of it, okay? It's a section of it, and sorry. And it's worth, like, hang on, sorry. Okay. It's worth looking at, like, a small piece of it so you can understand, like, you know, what it is. So let me read to you just what Wikipedia says about it, okay? The Tristan quilt, sometimes called the Tristan and Isolde. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure. It's that famous story, Tristan and Isolde. You know, have you heard of that mythical story? If you can tell me how to pronounce it properly, I would love that. Sometimes called the Tristan and Isolde quilt, or the Guicciardini quilt, is one of the earliest surviving quilts in the world, depicting scenes from the story of Tristan and Isolde. Isolde, it's Italian, right? Isolde. An influential romance and tragedy. It was made in Sicily during the second half of the 14th century. There are at least 2 extant sections of the quilt, one of which is displayed at the Victoria and Albert Museum's medieval and Renaissance galleries. Always. I think, Marianne, right? It's always up. Because I saw it when I was there twice, I think. It's on permanent view. Right when you come in, I think. The other quilt. Okay, sorry. There are at least 2 extant sections of the quilt, one of which is displayed at the Victoria and Albert Museum, V&A, and the other is in the Bargello in Florence. A third quilt, also depicting Tristan and Isolde, but not thought to be part of the V&A and Bargello examples, is held in private hands. Ooh la la, well, that's the V&A, okay? I don't know who that woman is, but she seems very nice. The Tristan quilts are the only known surviving. Isolde. Oh, of course. Isolde, right? Or Isolde. Or Isolde. Isolde. Yeah, Rhonda, that's good. That's good. Oh. Kirsten. Thanks. You didn't get to catch it, yeah. Hey, Bip! Bip's in the house. Bip, it's so good to see you. I don't know. I like this episode because the other 2 things that we're going to look at, like, wait, we'll get to one of them at least. Maybe we'll get to the other. But we're on that. It's that kind of show where like we just gotta talk. We gotta talk about stuff. So so this is the Tristan quilts are the only known surviving examples of medieval quilts. The quilt is made from 2 layers of linen stitched together. Interesting. I'm going to show you this. Oh, cool. Okay, I just did that. That's awesome. So if I pull that over, oh, that's cool. Okay, watch this. Oh, you see that soldier? Do you see him? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's very interesting. Okay, Wikipedia. Sorry, I just have to look at this thing. Okay. Tristan quilt. That soldier, you can see this is his mouth, and this is his like literal armor that they were like, I'm quilting a person. He is in armor, because that was just, you know, I mean, isn't that strange? Like people used to wear armor, and like, I don't know, pretty simplistic sounding thought. But I mean, honestly, sometimes I'm just overwhelmed by the fact that like I'm sitting here in shorts and like a sweater, and people used to wear quilted, you know, bodices. And if you were like a soldier or something, you would wear, look, he's got the, you know, the visor thing. I mean, was he a knight? I don't know. We should find out maybe by reading the actual thing. The quilt is made from 2 layers of linen stitched together with wadding in between. I'm going to show you another picture. Backstitch in cream and brown linen thread defines a series of pictures with captions that have been brought into relief by inserting rolls of cotton stuffing to raise sections of the design, a technique known as trapunto or boutie. The stuffing could have been introduced during the quilting process, or because the backing layer is looser in weave, its threads could have been parted to introduce the stuffing. Some elements are done using cord quilting. Very interesting. I know, Bip, right? Okay. Subject. So now there's just a little bit more here. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Here. Oh, this is great. This looks like Elizabeth Gurrier, doesn't it? The little faces. Surely, obviously, she knew about this quilt. Oh, I don't know that she's still living or not. Elizabeth. No. Gurrier. I'm just going to see if she... No, I don't think so. But look at this. Look at this picture. So that's Gaskell, right? Yeah. This is Gaskell. It's like we go back and forth. Look, between the Tristan quilt and hers, and it's like, obviously, you know, there's a relationship there. So interesting. Wow. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to read a little bit more about the Tristan quilt, okay? I don't know. Maybe not. It talks about the story of the Tristan quilt, which, you know, it's very long, and it's lovers, right? It's lovers, and okay. Oh, Betty died. Betty died in 2011. Yeah. The V&A. I've seen it, Marianne. I think like I remember it being really near like the front. I mean, at least where I entered, I remember I didn't have to go. Well, not near the front, but I didn't have to go very far to see it. So anyway, obviously this is like a pretty awesome place to jump from Gruyere, right? The Tristan quilt. Pretty cool. Yeah, wow. It's so neat. Ah! And who said it's huge? Yeah, someone said it's huge. Yeah, it is. Cool. There you go. So that is Elizabeth Gruyere. Now what? Oh, here. I think it was... Now I forgot. I think it was Charles. Felt like sweets? I thought I saw you here. But maybe not. But we'll find you on the... in the replay, or you'll see this eventually, okay, if you don't see it now. I think it was you who alerted me to this. And this is just a quickie, y'all. This is just a quickie. Look at that photograph. This is Lucien Freud, the artist who was a very famous artist. Look, I have to be honest. When I saw this, I was like, wow, Lucien Freud. I think I know who that is. Like, obviously I'd heard the name, but I was like, nah. Was he a writer? I couldn't think. But he was a printmaker, and he was an artist. And this photograph is by Walker Evans. And there's a series of them. Oh, that was weird. Did you see how that happened? Looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up. It's a series of 12 photographs of Lucien Freud taken by Walker Evans in... Hang on, oh dear. Ah! No, don't look at that. No! Ah! Shoot. What happened? Sorry. Well. Sorry. Oh, thank God. Yeah, taken in... When I can find out. Here it is. 1950s. That's all it says. These photographs of Mr. Freud are at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And it was Charles, I believe, who tipped me off. So, twitch@maryfons.com. And I did answer a bunch of emails these past few days. So please send me tips. Send me things we should look at, because you can put them in the chat. Oh, in the Discord, like, you should see what I have. Thursday is Discord day, right, for me to work on the Discord. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. But putting tips in there is good. But if you want to email me something you think we should look at together, I would love that. I have a really long list of things that we can check out. And if it's a viewer or member suggested thing, of course I'm noting that, right, for the future. But I mean, look at this picture. It's very, very cool. Swoon for the quilt on the wall, 1000%. He was a painter. Okay. Lucien was a painter. Is it? If he's listening, Mr. Freud is listening to us. He's kind of, I don't know, kind of sexy. A little something. Oh my God. You know what? Maybe this is like kind of crude, but I look at him, and I was looking at this other woman, this artist, when I Googled quilt sculpture. She came up. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to show her work. Didn't love it. But she has a fair amount of press about her, and so I was like looking at her stuff and like sort of trying to figure her out. And she's like very conventionally beautiful. Like she's, just, bodies, like she's real fit, she's like 30. She has, lots of hair, lots of blonde hair, and she just looks sort of like a model, right? And she's talented enough that like, yeah, she's like represented by a gallery, and there's pictures of her, like with like paint, like on her. And I think I thought this about her, and I think this about this guy too. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say it. Like, they probably just had a lot of sex in their life. You know, I mean, it's just like you're this because you're this artist, and you're like brooding, and like, look at him. He's like on a bed, right? And this one artist was like half nude, like on the beach, like. And I just think about the lives they must lead. I'm not judging at all, but I just think, wow. Lucien Freud probably really popular, you know, with the ladies, because he's this brooding painter and he's like not bad looking and like was pretty successful. I just feel like that kind of guy and that kind of girl, it's a trap. Get out while you can. He does remind me of James Dean. Exactly. I know. And the quilt on the wall. Okay. Now, one of you, Susan, said swoon for the quilt on the wall. Oh, Susan, you know about this one. It was commissioned by the artist Bacon. And another is used in a Jasper Johns. Wait, this? Really? I don't know anything. The Art Story webpage has an article, Freud and Bacon lived under scrutiny. Really? Were they gay? Was it lived under scrutiny because, was it like, oh, the Red Scare? Did people think he was a communist? Yeah, he's like super cute. He's got like come hither vibes, and he's on a quilt, so I'm like, and by the way, the date of the photo. So date of the photo, it just says 1950s. So Susan, is it yup to the Red Scare, the communist freak out in the 1950s, or that they were homosexual? I don't know. I don't know at all about them. I do want to say one thing, by the way. Okay, it was communism. I think it was communism, but that quilt on the wall, I would know it anywhere. I would know the kind of quilt that it is anywhere. Soldier quilt. If I say soldier quilt wool intarsia, does that mean anything to anybody? I think it probably does. I am talking about this kind of thing. I'm just going to pull this up. It's the quickest way. It's the quickest way. Hang on. What is the quickest way? Yep. Okay. Nope. Here we go. Okay. Yep. Like that. Going here, and we're going here. Remember these? You know these. Yeah, that quilt is the best. It's these. It's one of those. Is it not? I mean, I would know it anywhere. Look, I'm going to squeeze this over here, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to hide the sidebar, and we're going to look at Lucien, and we're going to pull out here. You see? That is totally this. I mean, it's not that quilt, but I mean, it's clearly wool and tarsa. I mean, those diamonds and the way that it looks, like, it just is. Look. You know? I'm gonna make it as big as possible. Look at the diamonds. You know? He's lounging on an Irish chain. He kind of reminds me of like a James Joyce kind of deal. Okay. Kate, I was wondering if he was related to Freud. I mean, I don't know how common the name Freud is in Germany. I'm sure Carolyn would be like, it's like Smith, you know, because she's German and she would know. Hey, Nora, hi. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad that you came. We're having a good time. Tonight's very fun. I feel so happy to be here because today was really challenging. I was on Zoom for 4 hours with no break, and it was hard, so I'm really happy to be here. Grandson of Sigmund Freud, Quiltish. Lucien Freud had 14 children with 6 women, so yeah, sex. Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is, I was like, oh, you know, should I say this thing about sex? Like, who cares, you know, but, and now Quiltish comes in. Yes, I knew it. 6 women. Really? You know what? Really? Like, they all really wanted to be there, I'm sure. They were all pretty happy to go see his paintings at his studio in New York. I mean, just imagine the parties, you know, probably really fun. Anyway. But yeah, 6 women. He was probably such a jerk. I'm sorry if you have 14 children with 6 different women. What are you, Picasso? Grandson of Sigmund Freud. The photo was just great with the high contrast. 1,000%. Ah, London. Francis Bacon. Yes, gay. Interesting. Crafts. Hang on. Valerie says, my late husband's family had friends who were affected by the Red Scare. Really? Really? What an interesting time. What a scary time. You know what? Since we're talking and hanging out, I just want to tell you that when there was Trump stuff, George Floyd stuff, pandemic stuff, 2020 stuff, basically. And everything was, and the Capitol riot, like, that time, that particular time in history, certainly for American people with the Capitol riot, like that was sort of that was like really, really a lot. And I asked my mom and my stepdad, Mark, this doesn't have to do with Lucien Freud. This has to do with us just like hanging out and having a conversation. Sorry, I just need to bring those in better. I asked my mom, I was like, yeah, Kate, right? I was like, Mom, this is really a scary time. I'm like, there's a pandemic. America is, feels like there's some cracks forming, or there have been cracks and now they're like expanding. And, racial unrest, it's always there. It hit a boiling point, what's going to happen? We don't know, whatever. And what else was 2020? All of the things, okay? I'm like, have you ever been through like a scarier time than right now? My mom's 30 years older than me. And so I'm 42, she's 72. It's always easy to remember how old she is because it's easy math. I was like, this is about as bad as it's been, right? Like in your life. And I asked my stepdad, Mark, as well. And I was so surprised to hear what she said. And she said, no, that it was like Nixon and like Vietnam, and Nixon came a little bit after. She's like, but Martin Luther King, that was like 63 or something, but like Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Vietnam, Nixon. And she said that was worse. She's like, that was worse. And yep, if some of you weigh in, right? If you have that opinion too, or if you were alive during that time and lived through that time, whether you agree or disagree, I would love to know. But she's like, no, we really thought, that the country was like over. And I just was like, wow, I didn't know. And so I love history, so much because I just want to figure out what's going to happen. And you can't read the future, but like history is all there for us to look at and be like, whoa, okay, how did they do it that time? And what happened here? And then I was listening to this hardcore history podcast. I don't know. It's really hardcore history. Sometimes it's even too much for me. But Dan Carlin is this amazing guy. And he talked about that time. And he said that while Nixon was in the White House, like during the certain really bad times, between 70 and 80 bomb threats a day came to the Capitol. I mean, there were 70 to 80 bomb threats every day. And they were real. I mean, that was really, really intense. And you think about the weathermen who were bombing things to get attention for, it's just, anyway, that really shocked me. So when Lucien Freud is here with his complex sexuality, Susan found a quote. His sexuality was complex. Probably an artist, Freud's grandson. You're talking about the Red Scare and like just that whole thing. I don't know. I think about American history and like what have been really scary times for everyone, right? That's all. Yeah. Yeah, Quilty Nancy. It really was a scary time. Mm-hmm. Little bird, we remember the acts, but forget the intensity of the moments. I'm sure that's true. I mean, I'll probably think of that. I hope the pandemic will end, and like in 20 years, I'll, totally forget like the intensity of it, right? New Elizabeth, I'm 61, and I remember my high school getting a bomb threat in the mid 70s. Oh my God. And Carol, hey Carol, there were false bomb threats everywhere else at the same time. Wow. Your dad died in Saigon. Quilting politic. Wow. Sue. Yeah. I mean, Vietnam too. I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy. When I think about the assassinations, King and Kennedy and Bobby, those really hit hard. Bobby Kennedy, I only knew, there's a good documentary about him, but one of my heroes, my all-time heroes, is Muhammad Ali. I mean, Fran Lebowitz, Muhammad Ali. Madonna was on the list for a long time. I don't know. She kind of disappointed me when she started like carving her face up into chunks. But Muhammad Ali, Bobby Kennedy, was like hanging with Muhammad Ali, and Ali was just so amazing to me. Anyway, I'm really off track now. We're not talking about quilts at all. If somebody new comes in, they'll be like, so where are the quilt? I came here for quilts. There's a quilt on the screen. There's actually many. But quilts are in culture, right? And the reason if you just dropped in, the reason we're talking about all of this is because that picture of Lucien Freud, the painter, taken by Walker Evans, the great photographer, has quilts in it. And it was taken in the 1950s. And that got us started talking about, communism. I don't know. I don't make the rules. We have smart people here. That's just how it goes. So, I mean, Muhammad Ali was he was just a beautiful person. He just was beautiful. It's like I don't feel like we deserved Muhammad Ali. He was brave and strong and a poet and I mean brave and strong as a man. Forget the fact that he was you have to watch documentaries about Muhammad Ali. And Ken Burns has a new one that Eric and I have not watched yet because he was out of town. And obviously we have to watch it together because we really love him. So anyway, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It was a horrible time for humanity. Indeed. You lived through both times, Faith. I mean, yes, framed your whole life. Yep. I grew up fearing Russia would bomb us. I still get shivers when I listen to Sting's Russians. I know that song. The Russians love their children too. And those fallout shelters were no shelters. I mean, hello, yeah. Yeah, Ali was very special. Telling the kids to get under their desks. My mom has talked about that. That was crazy. Carol says we had a field trip to a teacher's house only because she had a fallout shelter. You had drills? I mean, the teachers, oh God, in the 80s, it seems pretty bleak. All of this, hence quilts and gardening. Exactly. The tipper for the current times is the pandemic. Okay. Yeah, interesting. You've lived through, okay, so Faith said earlier, she said, I've lived through both times, okay? The time that my mother described that we're all talking about now, and this time. And Faith says the tipper for the current times is the pandemic. So you're saying that now is a little, it wins by a nose as the worst, or as being worse. Is that what you're saying? Quilta, she had to run home and see how long it took in case of attack. Oh my gosh. Padma had drills in grammar school in the 60s. Sue says, if I didn't quilt, I'd be making matching Christmas pajamas for everyone in America. Exactly. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we have these things. Huh. Yeah. Myra, the only time you felt scared It was the past 5 years, but especially in January. Same. Oh yeah, same. January 6th. Yeah, on a lighter note, Reefer Madness. Did you see it in school? It was before my time, but Elizabeth, you can the dirt will be there, right? But the live stream only lasts so long. I mean, what are we gonna do? Anyway, so yeah, yeah. Oof. We could really. That's what this is for, right? We've seen a lot of quilts so far. It's not like we've been slacking. Anyway, I love talking to people who have lived longer than I have. Why would I talk to anyone else? I've said that before. Like, I want to talk to people, of course, Eric's 2 years older than me, and I've dated people, men. I've dated men who were much older than me, and I've dated men who were much younger than me, okay? We should call this like Quilt Church After Dark sometime, and I'll just... Members only chat. But like, and those were thrilling at times, great relationships, whatever. But the age difference does change things, right? And I only really kind of saw that it was sort of important if you're in a relationship where someone's much older than you or much younger than you, like, if it works, period. But I found that Eric being just basically my age, definitely just my age. We know all the commercials. We start singing like, my buddy, wherever I go, he goes. I was born in 1980. Like a couple months before 1980, but basically 1980. And we know all those commercials, and we were wearing flannels and listening to Nirvana and smoking weed out of an apple. I'm sorry. I was in a small town in Iowa. I couldn't get paraphernalia in a cornfield with an apple. It was awful. I was gonna say it was great, but it kind of wasn't. The apple stuff. My point is, it's been cool. It's been good to find the love of my life is 44 years old, because we share these experiences, and that's great. But talking to people who are older than me, is that not the totally reasonable, sensible thing to do as a person? Like, I want to know what happened before, because all of us who are alive now can't possibly know what's coming. But people who have lived longer, Anyway, Myra, you're my bigger sister. You're adopted. It's just the way it is. I have nothing else to say about it. That's just the way it is. Yeah, Crosley says the same thing. What wasn't part of the mix in the 60s and 70s is the pandemic. God, you know what? Sometimes I just sort of throw down my magazine that I'm reading, or I just sit back in my chair, I throw my pizza down on my plate and I go, God damn pandemic. Can you believe this? Just like, we drew that card. We drew that pandemic card. Great. Can you believe pandemic? Pandemic? No. You see the stuff about the 1918 pandemic, and it's like, ooh, before this happened to us, pandemic, and you would just recoil in horror, like, oh, those sorry SOBs. Ooh, that must have been terrible. We got it. We drew the card, I'm so mad. It's like getting the short stick, when you're like picking straws or something. Like, no, I didn't want the... Anyway. Oh, listen, Sue. How much younger? Because, yeah, anyway. It's very scary in Tennessee now. There's so many Trump lovers, vaccine, mask haters. Yeah, it's civil war. Ooh. Oh. Okay, yeah, Oscar Mayer Wiener, exactly. Much younger. Oh, yeah. Oh, Carol Hempel. Okay, we're gonna change. We're gonna shift. Not that I don't want to talk about this all night, but I mean, obviously, I want to talk about it, all of the things all night. And you know, this category in Twitch, it's called just chatting. I mean, that's the category that you choose. This shows how Twitch needs to talk to me about like quilters and, you know, because we're not just chatting. We're doing like education, entertainment. I don't know, something, but it's considered just chatting in the Twitch, like when I select things before I publish a video or whatever. And so it is just chatting. We're just chatting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, Carol Hempel said that she dated a guy much younger at one point, and he couldn't carry on a decent conversation, but he had other assets. Did you read my blog by chance when I wrote my blog all the time? I detailed a love affair. Okay. Where was I? God. Anyway, I actually did lose my train of thought. What am I doing? Okay, yes. Okay. You know, I love my blog too. I just loved it. It was so special and important, and I think the older I got, well, when I was falling in love with Eric and I had a nervous breakdown, that came, and then Eric, but and I did write about that experience, but I don't know. I took a break, and then when I came back, I care so much about writing. Like, I cared about it before, but the blog posts that I've written in the past 2 years take days, because I want it to be good, like really good. And I was in such a flow with my blog for so long, I could dash off, you know, this and that. Anyway, okay. Let's just do one thing. We're going to do one thing. And we are going to do this. Okay. We're going to tie up a loose end. Okay. Susan Else is a quilt sculptor working in the West Coast. So I'm going to write that down because that's what I want to know for this lecture that I'm giving. We're going to finish with Rebecca Scattergood. We started talking about her last time, and I think that's a good thing to do. Let's see. You said Susan Else. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I've pulled things up in a folder, so it's real. Okay, don't look. Don't read ahead. Okay. All. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's what I'm gonna do. Organize by. This might make you happy. The thing that I'm gonna do soon. I don't know if it's gonna be this weekend. I have to check with Eric if he's got the ability to do that. We're going to do a Twitch retreat. Just the two of us. And we are going to go through and really learn things about this platform and about just what things mean and like how we do different extensions. And, you know, because I've stayed pretty much like there. If you've been here since the start, you've seen like I've learned different things, and I've like, oh, I know how to change the scene, and like I can play music now, and like all that's really, really great. But I mean, you really have to sit down. It's like I need to go to a retreat or like a Twitch school, you know, and just sit down and read through the entire website. Click on every button, every tab. They have something called Creator Camp. So I've got this long list of things that I want to figure out. And so Eric and I are going to really have an intentional weekend time and really go through everything and learn it, you know? Okay, open. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. Great. Oh yes, this is perfect. All right. Hide sidebar. two of the quilts that you'll see we saw last time, but we didn't talk about them enough. So, okay, wait, what's the chat doing? Okay. Oh yeah, okay, good. Hey, Bip. Okay, catch you on the replay, and we'll see you Thursday. Thanks for coming. I really need a chip. Crisp. Okay. Here's how I have this worked up. No. Why does it do that? See, I don't know why it does that, and I don't like that. I get really mad. I just hate it. I just hate it. Oh, I get so mad. Fine. All right. Yeah, I think it'll do it again. Okay. Okay, here we go. So Rebecca Scattergood, all right. We started talking about her last time, and to be honest, I can't remember how. I don't know exactly how we got on her, but we did. Does anybody remember how? Anyway, we did somehow, and it was pretty neat, because she's a very famous, quilt person, she's a name in the quilt canon, pantheon, Mount Olympus, whatever. So here's who she was. Hang on. This quilt, by the way, is a star and signature quilt. So those are signatures in the middle of the 6-point stars. And I just want to show you closer up. I think that was part of why I wanted to come back to this, because I don't think we looked at any of these close up. And these are some very, very, very famous quilts. There aren't many that were made by Rebecca Scattergood Savory, but the ones that exist, obviously are just insane. But look at that green fabric. You see that, that kind of, it's not ombre, but it's what is that? It's not striped. It's just really cool, because I think before this fabric was around, the technology to make it probably wasn't around. It's kind of it seems like people were probably very excited when this particular kind of print came out, because it's an optical illusion. It's really funky, right? So this belongs to the Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska. And here's what they say about Rebecca Scattergood. Oh, this quilt is 1844. Rebecca Scattergood married Thomas Savory in 1791. 1791? Yes, 1791. Both were members of the Society of Friends, the Quakers. So she was a Quaker. Quakers from Philadelphia and other parts of the Delaware Valley that forms the Pennsylvania New Jersey border, had strong connections to Britain through the London Yearly Meeting. That's a proper noun. The London Yearly Meeting, which was the international center of Quaker religious life. Do you all know about Quakers? Yeah, totally, Dee Marie. Barbara Breckman's all over it. I really want her on the show. Oh, obviously. But she's not a hermit. I don't want that to get back to her. But maybe she would actually be okay with me calling her a hermit. I asked her to work on a quilt folk thing one time years ago, and she said yes, but she was like, do I have to go anywhere or do anything or talk to anyone? I was like, nope, just me. And she's like, great, I'll do it. Rebecca Scattergood married Thomas Savory in 1791. They were Quakers. And in Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley, they had strong connections to Britain through the London Yearly Meeting, which was the international center of Quaker religious life. The close cultural exchange between friends on either side of the Atlantic may have helped sustain this British mosaic patchwork technique. Interesting. The 6-pointed mosaic stars contain inked inscriptions of names. Someone just asked what they might be. We will find out, Marianne. Some also have delightful ink drawings. Oh, I wish we could see those. Can we? That looks like maybe a drawing. Maybe. With the exception of the Savories, the names inscribed on the quilt have been traced to Quakers who lived on the east side of the Delaware River in New Jersey. The quilt must have been completed sometime after April 6th, 1844. 1844, since Rebecca's grandson, William H. Savory, who is named on the block on the edge of the quilt, was born on that day. Oh. Perhaps Rebecca stitched the quilt as a tribute to Cyrus Cadwallader, whose name is on the central patch and who, at the age of 81, was the oldest person to be named. Rebecca Savory is known to have made at least 6 quilts. Okay, let's... there we go. She's known to have made at least 6. So, I mean, that's interesting that they say that because, I mean, people make lots of quilts, but like, it must be that she dated them. Okay, here. Okay. It's just very specific, right? She inscribed 3 of them with names and dates. The International Quilt Museum owns 2 of these. They own the one we just saw, the star signature, and one other made in 1845, which we'll see. And the other one that is signed and dated is housed at the American Folk Art Museum. And I think that's this one. I labeled them. I did label them in my... Can I tell if I hover over this? Oh, I can do this. American... Yeah, this is at the American Folk Art Museum. We looked at this. You all remember, if you were here last time, we looked at this wonderful... Someone pointed out this wonderful chevron thing that kind of happens here. It's pretty awesome. All right, so let me read this. I think I've got this other thing. Yeah. Sunburst quilt. Approximately 2,900 diamonds. We were trying to figure out how many, right? We were thinking about how many. This is from the American Folk Art Museum catalog magazine thing. So there was going to be a contest and whoever got closest to the right number was going to get, like, I don't know, crisps sent from me in the mail. But hey, Kate went to Quaker school and lived near Philadelphia. This is your girl. So I think we read somewhere that it had 4,000 diamonds in it. And all of us, almost all of us, Carol, you were like, 4,000 seems about right. But so many of us were like, 4,000? I don't think so. There's way more than 4,000 pieces in this. But we're all wrong. Because the Folk Art Museum says there's 2,900 diamonds. Concentric rings create a sense of motion from the center to the borders of this quilt. It is backed with another print in the popular seaweed pattern. Oh, snap. Oh, do you think it's this? Do you think this is seaweed? The seaweed pattern? I don't know. Oh, no, I think I know it. I think I know what they're talking about, actually. Maybe I'll find a swatch of it. Oh, yeah. It's backed with another print in the popular seaweed pattern and is filled with a fine layer of carded wool. Quilting in large diamonds is minimal. Interesting. Interesting. I knew I was in love with Eric and that he was the perfect guy for me when I heard him say, interesting. Because I say that, interesting. He says it just like me. Interesting. Okay, here's another quilt. Imagine that. Boom. This one. Another starburst, obviously. Definitely not as awesome of a picture, like quality-wise, as the other. So this one is at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So Kate. Wikipedia said, Oh. Carol, you win. You win. In general. and for lots of reasons. Okay, here's what the Folk Art magazine says about this one. 1839. And in contrast with the 35 or 40 smaller roller prints used on the front, this quilt is backed with a large... No, don't. You can't believe what I'm reading from, this tiny little stupid thing. No. Oh, okay, here. Backed with a large roller print, furnishing chintz. Still beautifully glazed. Interesting. There are said to be 3,903 pieces, each approximately 4 inches long. The careful placement of rings of light prints creates a visual fountain. Oh, I like that. I like that term to describe a starburst, a fountain. I like that. Detail it right. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And then there is... Oh, no, that's Allison Smith. Okay, and then there's this one. Wait, is that right? Hang on. Hold on. I don't think I have anything about this one. Interesting. Do I have... No. Okay, well, I'll just read you this, which is sort of similar. Well, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so that's Rebecca. And she was a Quaker, and she has a very interesting story. And I am going to give you a link in the chat to this article about her in that Folk Art magazine. And it's kind of fun. It's on Issuu, ISSUU website, which like scans magazine. You'll see. It's good. It's a really, really nice way to read that article. And you don't have to log in or do anything. You can just read it. Yeah. What have you made for folks who would like to share? Like, what's the biggest quilt you've made, or the quilt with the most pieces? I mean, I haven't counted, but I mean, my like little half square triangle quilt that I made a long time ago. I mean, it has 1,200. No, 2,400. No, right? Yeah. I mean, there's 1,200 half square triangles in there. Is that right? That can't be. I think it is. I made a lot of half square triangles, people, and they have 2 pieces in each unit, right? So it was a lot. Okay. And then from here we go postage stamp. Yeah. Then we're going to look at Allison Smith, and then that's the show. That's the show, everybody. I'm so hungry. Zoom calls, 1 p.m. all the way till I had to sign on with you. So I've been in this chair for almost 6 hours. And now I'm eating chips, so I feel great. So here's Allison Smith. You know, it's actually, you know what? I kind of threw that question out there, but I mean, if you're a serious quilter, you know, it might be a cool thing to know, actually. You know, like what quilt you made, like how many pieces are in the quilt with the most pieces that you ever made. I mean, you know, it's a data point. You know, it's a data point. And you could figure it out pretty easily, right? I mean, if it's a quilt with blocks, count, you know, well, maybe it's not so easy, but okay. So this is an exhibition photo of Allison Smith's 2010 exhibit, Fancy Work. So I'm showing it to you. We looked at it very briefly. We looked at one of the pieces in this show, which was one of these. Okay, I don't know if you remember, but there was a sculpture, this sculpture, and we looked at it very briefly, because it's called Tilt Top Table Scattergood. So she is, you paying homage or referencing, obviously, Rebecca Scattergood. Okay. So, yeah, go Myra. Amazing. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures of her work. I mean, that's cool, because when you look here, let me go back. When you look at the front, so pretend you can't see the other tip-top table there on the left. I mean, you look at the front of this piece. I know what I can do. I can force you not to look at it. It's this sort of drum-looking thing, and it's a tilt-top table, which of course is like obviously a thing, right? It's a table that tilts, and I honestly have never. I mean, I've probably seen one at some point, but it's an old school kind of table design, I assume, right? I mean, it looks like an antique kind of situation. One of you definitely know. But then you see the back, right? This gathered thing, which I think is just really cool. You gotta love the artists who are, they've got something, real good. They're real good at art because it's just wonderful, and most people don't think like that. I don't know how to describe what I mean, but I mean, it's really, really cool. And it's not functional anything, it's art. And I think it's great because that gather, I mean, it's got a ribbon on it, doesn't it? I actually hadn't seen that until this moment. But before I even saw that ribbon, I thought it looks like a ponytail a little bit, It seems sort of girlish in its way. And then, of course, there's this starburst quilt, for God's sakes. And I don't know if it may be digitally printed. It may actually be Scattergood's quilt, like printed on cloth. I don't know. Definitely easy to figure that out, but it may be here. Okay, so this is what Allison Smith says about her exhibit, and I have some more pictures. Do I? Yeah. Fancy work is an installation that looks to an exuberant early 19th century decorative arts movement known as American Fancy. That's my last picture. Okay. To trace an alternate, there is one more picture. To trace an alternate lineage for modernist abstraction and psychedelic light shows. Cool. Drawing from patchwork quilts by Rebecca Scattergood Savory and others that were inspired by the 1816 invention of the kaleidoscope. Yeah, you got to read that article about Scattergood, and so do I, because I didn't know that. I gathered a group of local makers to create a vibrant, dizzying wall work composed of more than 2,400 screen-printed, cut and sewn linen diamonds. That's this. The design is a variation of the traditional Star of Bethlehem quilt pattern, which Scattergood innovatively took to the edges of her quilts like explosive shock waves that could not be contained. This monumental quilt top then served as the projection screen for an outsized colonial wall sconce that scatters light from an electrified candle reflected in its faceted mirrors. And I have a picture of that. Damn, I did. Okay, well, it's on my desktop. I might not have opened it. Okay, so that is that, but there's two more pictures here. Hang on. I thought I had them pulled up, but I don't, but that's fine. That's fine because they're right here. Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Well, that was easy. Okay. You see, I do prepare. I prepare. Have you subscribed yet? You want to toss me? Toss me some cash. Okay, view full screen. This is the sconce, okay? That was the best picture I could find of it. But this is what she's... Okay, so do you see the quilt reflected? Look, that's the big quilt that was on the wall reflected in the sconce. Where did you go? I need my people. Here you are. Yeah. Yep. The sconce is like an inverted disco ball / satellite dish, and it actually spins. Viewers navigated the space with punched tin work lanterns, creating moving patterns of light and shadow, while an ensemble of tunesmiths played the hauntingly beautiful musical Saw to complete the sensory experience. One more paragraph. In order to activate the social space between quilt and sconce, I invited a number of speakers, including historian Sumpter Priddy III, Priddy, Sumpter Priddy III, on American fancy, media arts, and scholar Robin Oppenheimer, on the West Coast light shows of the 1960s and 70s. Light show pioneer Bill Ham, and American art quilt historian Roderick Kirikoff. So check this out. Look at that. You know, there he is. There he is, right? Of Unconventional and Unexpected. Rod Kirikoff. Rod, our friend. And that quilt, I mean, I just saw this tonight, right? I just saw this tonight. That quilt, that red and white one, was not in the original first edition of his famous book, Unconventional and Unexpected, but it is in the second edition, published by Quilt Folk, thank you very much, and Schiffer Publishing. So that quilt did not make it into the first book, but it is one of the bonus quilts in the second edition, which is shipping soon. Yeah. And then she also had activist and Names Project AIDS Memorial Quilt founder, Cleve Jones, on the notion of turning a symbol of American family values on its head. Quilt as both healing tool and weapon, battlefield and mass grave. Yeah. So, all right, there's one more. Sorry. I have to show you this because this is pretty interesting. And this is actually, this is a place to start next time. I mean, a jump off from this quilt. It's called Cheater Cloth. The inspiration for this work was derived from a quilt at the Shelburne Museum in Vermont. I know exactly the one she's talking about. We're going to talk about it next time. Made by a convalescing Civil War soldier. Yeah. The original artifact combines Smith's interest in wartime textiles and art made by soldiers in the context of war. We come full circle. And also contains another facet of her research, the history of tradespeople and street peddlers. Yeah, I know. I mean, I can go to the folder of Quilt Folk photographs of this quilt when we went to the Shelburne and saw it in person. So, hey, Dr. Murphy. Are you a quilt person? Have you come in peace? We're just wrapping up, actually. It's been an amazing night. Thank you so much. I couldn't wait to get here tonight because, I mean, yeah, like, here we are. Quilt Academy is pretty good. So let me just think about things. If you have ideas, send me an email. I'm going to figure it out. But, you know, it's early enough that we have to get these things right? You know, because once we have a thing, once we call it something, once it has a name, once it, you know, branding, we have to get it right, you know, at the beginning here, because you can't change it later. So, yay! Ask Dr. Murphy, you were just listening to me talk about quilts. Well, I mean, buckle up, because if you come back, that's what we do here. We talk about quilts. I mean, it's just the way it is. Oh, there's a moth. So in fact, it's a good, sorry. It's a very good place to stop, actually, is on this screen to tell you that, we talk about quilts 3 times a week. We talk about them on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central, and Saturdays at 4 p.m. Central. And on Sundays we sew. We just sew together. And I mean, if you can be a quilt, well, most of the people in here are quilt nerds, but you don't have to be one to enjoy this show because, well, there you go. Quilts do keep people warm at night, but the thing that this show sort of explores is all the things that they do beyond just keeping people warm. So it's good. I feel like we're gonna see you on Thursday, because you're gonna be like, what was that strange 5 minutes of quilt content that I watched? I think I better come back. Who is this person, Mary Fons? What is her deal? Why does she look so tired? These answers and more will be answered. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You're amazing. You're amazing. And one last thing. If you like this content, tell a friend. Tell a friend who you think would like it. And if they can come by, that's great. Because, let's do this. So there's 300 followers now, that's great. It's a pretty new thing. So I think that's fun. But anyway, yeah, we do and keep ourselves entertained. Yeah, I agree. It was a good episode. Okay, everybody, take care. And I'll see you on Thursday. Okay, bye.